Let me start with this Shabbos. This Shabbos is one of the Shabbosim that has a name, meaning to say it's called just like the Shabbos Shira, the Shabbos we sing the song at the Yam Suf, and there's Shabbos Shuva, which is in Tishrei, Shabbos between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So this Shabbos also has a name, and it's called Shabbos Hagadol, which means the big Shabbos. Why is it called the big Shabbos? Interesting, there's a lot of different reasons that are given. And one simple reason, which is the most commonly known reason, is that the custom is that this Shabbos, because it's the last Shabbos before Pesach, and it's the last opportunity where everybody comes together. During the week, people are scattered, but on Shabbos, everybody comes together. In all Torah communities, this Shabbos, the Rav would get up and talk about things to be aware of for Pesach. In other words, the sort of the last minute reminder, don't forget about this and don't forget about that, don't forget to sell your chametz, and all sorts of questions that come up. And the Rabbanim would speak for a long time. And that's why they called it Shabbos Hagadol. It was a day where the Rav would speak a lot and long in order to caution everybody and make sure that everybody receives Pesach the way it's supposed to be. But there's another reason that's given, and this is brought down in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch. And naturally, if it's in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, it's also found in earlier sources. The Alter Rebbe says that the reason is because on this day, on this Shabbos, there was a Nes Gadol. There was a big miracle that happened on this day. What was the big miracle? So first of all, what day in the week did Eden go out of Mitzrayim? Anybody remember? I know it's a long time ago, but anybody remember? What day in the week was it when Eden went out of Mitzrayim? What? I didn't hear. Thursday, right. It was a Thursday. And in fact, in the Hayom Yom of Thursday, we say Hayom Yom Chamishi, we mentioned our going out of jail. But the Shabbos before, the Eibishter told the Yidden they should take and prepare a sheep. And he told them that they're going to bring it as a korban. But they had to prepare the sheep before because there's not allowed to have any blemish, so they tied it to the bed. And the Alter Rebbe goes on to describe what happened. And that Shabbos, the B'chayim of Mitzrayim, the firstborn, asked the Yidden, why are you doing this with the sheep? And they said, because we're going to be bringing a sacrifice, because in a few nights from tonight, on the night of Pesach, Hashem is going to kill all the firstborn Egyptians. This is what they're telling to the firstborn Egyptians. When they heard this, and they saw that everything Moshe Rabbeinu said that he's going to do, he actually did. The plague of blood and the plague of the lice and the plague of the frogs, and now he's saying that all the Egyptians are going to die. So they came running to Paro and they said, let the Yidden out, if not, we're in trouble. And Paro refused. So what happened was that there was a war between the Bechorim, the firstborn of the Egyptians, and the Egyptian government. There was a war, and a lot of them got killed. And because of this mess, that's why the Shabbos is called Shabbos HaGadol. Even though it's interesting, it's another point. We're not going to go to that point, but what day in the month was it? It was the 10th day of Nissan. But we don't dedicate the 10th day of Nissan to commemorate this miracle. We dedicate the Shabbos when it happened. Usually, anything that happens, we say, what day in the month did it happen? And every year, that day in the month, it's repeated. In this case, we connect it to the day of the week, not the day of the month. It was the Shabbos before Pesach. Some years, Shabbos before Pesach was the 10th, like this year. And some days, Shabbos is a different day. But this year, it's actually the same day that it happened originally. So the general question about this is, why is it called Shabbos HaGadol because it was a big nes, which implies that even though there are a lot of different miracles, but this miracle is a big nes. Why? What makes this miracle bigger than other miracles? Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to say something?
Because like isn't one of the signs of Gula, like even the Gaim are recognizing like Hashem's greatness, and even they were like fighting for our redemption.
So it's related to that. I'm going to explain that. Yeah. Now, they didn't recognize because after all they still were the Bukharim Mitzrayim. Not only that, they did get killed at the end. So apparently they still were not good guys. But I'll soon explain. Okay, so this is the general idea that in the other miracles, whether it's Purim or other miracles that happened, it was always that Kedusha defeated Klippa. In this case, what happened was that Klippa defeated Klippa. Klippa fought with Klippa that it should let the Yidden go out of Mitzrayim. I need to explain a little bit why is that so amazing. In fact, one of the questions that the Rebbe asks is, what benefit did the Yidden have from this war? No benefit. So they were fighting, they killed each other, but what benefit did we have? And by the way, this is the page in Daven that you'll recognize in this whole do that we say the 26 times. Oh, the one of them is Limake Mitzrayim B'Chareyim. The simple meaning is that Hashem brought the plague of the firstborn. But there's another meaning to it, not the plague of the firstborn, but it's referring to this Nes, that the Shabbos before, the firstborn, they were the ones who sort of were crushing Mitzrayim itself. So let's explain why is this considered just an outstanding miracle to be called a Nes Gadol. So generally speaking, when there is a Nes, it means a Nes shows that Hashem is in charge and godliness is emes and everything else is insignificant and everything else is falls and is worthless in the eyes of Hashem. So Hashem and his miracles, Kedusha, overpower Klippa. What does it mean when we see that Mitzrayim itself is fighting Mitzrayim, fighting that Egypt should allow the Jews to go out of Mitzrayim? What it means is, first of all, B'chari Mitzrayim is not just a technical thing that they were the firstborn. In those days, the firstborn in general, in all communities, were considered the elite of the community. And of course, according to Chassidus, B'chor means the first is always the most powerful, the source, the beginning. So this was not just Egypt fighting Egypt. This was the elite of the Egyptians, the firstborn, like almost like to say the strongest element in Egypt itself was fighting Egypt that they should allow the Yidden to go out of Mitzrayim. Every Nes, in a sense, what it accomplishes, it shows how the world and Hashem is one. The world is nothing independent, and everything Hashem wants, that's what he does, and Hashem is the one who has the power to do everything and anything, and everything else is just in the hands of Hashem. So, and to be more specific, the way Chassidus explained that the world and Hashem are one. That's really the essence of a miracle. Miracles show us that Hashem and the world are one. They're not separate, independent, and nothing in the world can happen independently without Hashem. So if Hashem wants, the water stands straight. If Hashem wants, the fire where Avraham Avinu was thrown in doesn't burn. And if Hashem wants, food comes down from Shemayim. And if Hashem wants, the walls of Yericho collapse. If Hashem wants, the sun stops. All this shows that the world and nature does not have its all godliness. But there's one thing that's even harder to understand. Like I mentioned yesterday, that even people that believe in Hashem and know that Hashem is the creator of the universe, they don't have this necessary belief that the world and Hashem is one. They do attribute some independence to the creation. But a miracle shows that the creation has no independence whatsoever. But what about Klippa? What about evil in this world? You're not going to say this is one with Hashem. Evil, murder, and all the other evil acts. And there are actually those who believe that it's not one with Hashem. So what is it? Hashem is in control, but they use it like the marshal of a king who's sitting in his palace, and he can see the garbage outside of the window from his palace. He can supervise it. He can see what's happening, but he's not in the garbage. Chas v'shalom, they say, to say that Hashem is connected to this person who's committing murder, connected to this person who's doing something immoral, that's a disgrace. But according to the truth, the way it is in Torah, and specifically the way it's explained in Chassidus, not everything in the world is one with Hashem. There's nothing that can exist without Hashem, and even the lowest, the most immoral thing in the world, if it exists, it has to have a godly spark in it. But why is it evil and immoral? Because the godly spark in it is totally concealed, hidden, as if it doesn't exist. But if there would be absolutely nothing godly there, it could not exist. So when we say that the world is one, it's not only one with things that are klipas noga, it's even one with things that are sholish, klipas atmeis, even things that are pure evil. Hashem is one with them as well, with Haman and with Antiochus and with Parai and Mitzrayim. They're all one with Hashem in essence. They don't have any independent existence. So when you see something happening that Egypt itself is demonstrating and manifesting something which is fighting evil, that means that when this happened, when the Bechor Mitzrayim attacked, this was sort of a manifestation of the godliness that's found even in a place like Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim was the most immoral place in the world. Yes, the Bechorim of Mitzrayim, they weren't doing it because they loved the Yidden. They were doing it because they wanted to be alive. They didn't want to get killed. But at the end of the day, they were fighting for our cause. They were fighting Parah that he should let the Yidden go. And if you think of it, this is a time where Parah was still very strong. Imagine, there was such a war, a revolution, and he still wouldn't let the Yidden go. So he was still, the Klip of Mitzrayim was still very strong. And nevertheless, what happened here was that the Yidden witnessed a miracle where the Egyptians themselves were fighting Egypt. So this was like, it practically, like I said before, there's nothing that they gained from it. They still couldn't go out of Egypt. Nothing changed for them. They were still stuck in Egypt just like before. But what changed was on a spiritual level, that this was the Alter Rebbe, in fact, says this was the first, in a sense, crack in the evil of Mitzrayim, and that's why we have a custom, the Shabbos, that after Mincha, we recite the Haggadah. The Alter Rebbe says, because this was the beginning of the miracles of going out of Mitzrayim, even though we didn't go out. But spiritually, this was what caused the crack in the Klip of Mitzrayim, and as a result of that, 5 days later, the whole thing collapsed completely. So that's why it's called Shabbos HaGadol, why it's called a Nes Gadol, because this is Klippa itself fighting Klippa, which means it's like the idea of, in general, either you can take Klippa and you can discipline it, you can control it, and make sure that it doesn't do what it wants to do, or to transform it, to bring out, like a person who does Averis, can do tshuva and get rid of the Averis, or to transform the Averis, which means that the godly spark in the Avera become revealed and the darkness becomes light. That's a much greater accomplishment, because it's darkness turning into light. And that's what they saw over here with the Bechorim of Mitzrayim. Needless to say, that we see an unbelievable comparison to what's going on today, that number one, today's Mitzrayim is Iran, not even a question. And the fact that we see that what's breaking them is not only Yidden, that Israel is attacking them, but that the nations of the world are attacking them. And perhaps could even say that America is considered like the Bechorim of the nations of the world. But in Iran itself, their own people are attacking them. Their own people are revolting against them. Their own people are the ones who are trying to bring down the regime. So this is consistent with what the Rebbe spoke about in 1991. That was a reference to Iraq, that we're witnessing what's happening is very similar to what happened when the Jews went out of Mitzrayim, and the same will happen now, that we're going to see that from Klippa itself will come the salvation, that will make the effort to destroy Klippa. That was then, and that was referring to the United Nations and other countries, but now we see it actually coming from Iran itself. Yeah.
Just a thought, like we were thinking during Purim, that it was like Purim because Israel was given permission
Right.
to fight, and so it's almost like now it's Purim and Passover both happening.
And not even a question, yeah. Purim and Passover.
At the same time.
And I don't know if you follow what's going on, but there are many sources that is going to be a war between Purim and Passover, and that's going to be the war that's going to usher in Mashiach. And it's going to be a war against Amalek. In general, every Yom Tov has something special, but when it comes to Mitzrayim, it says that all Golos and even the other Golos are all called Mitzrayim, because Mitzrayim means distress. They're all countries that cause distress to the Jewish people. Okay. So the bottom line is that seeing that Egypt itself is fighting Egypt, like in our case, seeing that the nations of the world are fighting, it means that even the God, and like I said, when Mashiach will come, that the nations of the world will accept Hashem and they'll bow to Hashem. This means we'll see that even the nations of the world internally, on an essence and at the core level, is also godly, and that godliness will come out. And this is the beginning of that godliness surfacing, seeing in the sense that they are there to destroy evil that's attacking us. Okay, the next thing that I want to talk about is, really should be the first thing, but it's about Yetzias Mitzrayim in general. Yetzias Mitzrayim in general, there's a big difference the way Chassidus views it and the way we view it on the surface. Without the way we view Yetzias Mitzrayim without Chassidus is basically like everything else. Something happened over 3,300 years ago. Yidden were Mitzrayim and they left Mitzrayim, and we thank Hashem forever. Number one, for what happened then, and number two, had it not happened then, we'd be slaves in Egypt now. That's what we say in the Haggadah. So it's all about what happened then. We know Chassidus always explains, no, something happening now, which means whatever was revealed then spiritually, which caused all the changes physically, whatever godliness was being revealed then, every year when the 15th of Nissan comes around, that godly light reoccurs and is revealed once again with all its splendor and glory. The only difference is that then there was a manifestation here on planet Earth. We went out of Mitzrayim, and the Egyptians suffered all those different plagues, and the Jews saw great miracles. And throughout the ages, we celebrated Pesach because we knew this is what's going on up there. But down here, we didn't necessarily see anything changes. Hopefully this year we'll see that also, because we're getting there. But what does it mean when we say the light is shining, the same light, so what? This is a good reason for the angels to be dancing and singing up there because they see lights. We don't see the lights. So what are we dancing about? We're dancing for the angels, or this is related to us? And the answer is it's related to us and our avodah. So this, I think, I'd like to do inside. And this is, even though you came across it, I'm sure, especially with Chikas, but it's so relevant, and this holds the core of all the Maimarim and different things that are written about Yetzias Mitzrayim, is chapter 47 in Tanya. So let's do that briefly. We'll go over inside and point out a few things that are pointed out. In this booklet, it's page 51a, And this is known to be the smallest chapter in the entire Tanya. In every generation, and every day, one is obligated to regard themselves as if they went out of Mitzrayim. And immediately we have a question. The source for this is a Mishnah. And the Mishnah doesn't say every day, it says every generation. Every generation we have to picture. Imagine this would have been the generation of Egypt. And this generation we went out of Egypt. Plus, how does it make sense to say every day? If I went out of Egypt yesterday, why do I have to go out of Egypt again? I went out already yesterday, I'm free. How do I get back in there? And if I went out today, why am I doing it again tomorrow? Every single day going out of Egypt. What's the point? So the Alter Rebbe, first of all, to know the Alter Rebbe is not Chas v'Sholom saying something different than the Mishnah. The Alter Rebbe is explaining the Mishnah. That even though it says in every generation we should picture ourselves we're going out of Mitzrayim, but in reality it means that in every generation, every day we should picture ourselves. The Alter Rebbe is explaining the Mishnah and not Chas v'Sholom saying something different than the Mishnah. And what does it mean? This means that the divine soul, the Nefesh Elokis, becomes free from the confinement of the body, which the Zohar, when he talks about the body, he calls it the serpent's skin, which is basically another fancy name for Klippa. Klippa has a lot of fancy names, so this is one of them. The Kolo b'yichud eres Baruch that the Nefesh Elokis is able to disconnect from the Nefesh Bahamis and the Guf that's holding him hostage, and connect to Hashem and become one with Hashem through learning Torah, through mitzvahs. But specifically, the Kabbalah's Malchus Shamayim, specifically by accepting the yoke and the sovereignty of Hashem. Shebo mekabel u'mamshech olav yichudu yizbarach b'pirush b'omri Hashem Elokeinu Hashem echad. So we keep on repeating this over and over, and this is really the essence of all of Chassidus, is that all the Torah studied, all the mitzvahs, and all the refinement of character trait, it's all, there's one thread behind it all. It's all becoming one with Hashem. So even though every word of Torah and every mitzvah and every character trait that I refine, I'm becoming one with Hashem, but it's much more pronounced when I'm actually thinking that I'm becoming one with Hashem, which is accepting Hashem's sovereignty. When I'm thinking about me and Hashem are one. In other words, when I do a mitzvah, it means me and Hashem are one. When I'm learning Torah, it means I'm connecting to Hashem. But when I'm saying Shema Yisrael, I'm actually declaring openly, verbally, in a very pronounced way, I and Hashem are one, Hashem Echad. As it was explained in the previous chapter 46, where it says, what does it mean when it says Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov? Hashem is Hashem. What do it mean by saying He's God, Avraham, the God of Avraham, the God of Yitzchak, the God of Yaakov? It means this is Hashem, that Avraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov, all of them became totally one with Hashem. Only difference is like this. Next page. Not next page, but next page in Tanya, 723. Abraham merited to become totally bottled to Hashem through his actions. The Maisa, the Hiluchai, B'Kodesh, B'Madrega, Madrega. Abraham Avinu served Hashem, and he became progressively higher and more spiritual, to the point that he actually became included in Hashem. Moshe Kosov, as it says, Vayisa Abraham Halach V'Nasaya Negba. Abraham Avinu continued to journey towards the south. Chassidus explains, south is the place where the sun is shining. That's considered like the right. That's chesed. And Abraham Avinu's Avodah was mainly love. Yitzchak served Hashem primarily with the feeling of fear and awe. Now, Abraham Avinu served Hashem mainly with love. So he was journeying, meaning he was following the path of love for Hashem, but wasn't standing in one place. He was constantly, progressively growing and advancing and progressing higher and higher and higher in Avodas Hashem. But we, Yerusha Umatana Hilanu, we have this already in us without any work. It's an inheritance and it's a gift. Shenasan lana terasa, Hashem gave us the Torah. Hilbush baritzayim chachmasa yizbarach. He invested His will and His wisdom in the Torah, and His will and wisdom are one with Hashem Himself. So therefore, when Hashem gives us the Torah, it's harei ki'ilu. It's as if nasan lanu is atzmek vayochel. Like we said this many times, that the Torah is like a capsule, and the mitzvahs are like capsules. And in the capsule is the essence of whatever I need to absorb. Hashem is invested in Torah and invested in mitzvahs. And therefore, when He gave us the Torah and the mitzvahs, in a sense, He gave us Himself. He invested Himself and to us. The next page, it says in the Zohar Kodesh, on the pasuk, v'yikchol li truma, which means they should bring to me truma, which is a gift to the Beis Hamikdash. So the Zohar says that the word truma really stands for Torah. How's that? If you look at the letters, truma has the letters that spell Torah. Tov, Reish, Vav, Hey. Torah. What's the mem doing there? The mem is 40. The Torah, which was given in 40 days. So basically it's saying, v'yikhuli, you should bring to me Truma, you should bring me Torah. Connect to me through studying of Torah. But the Alter Rebbe asks, first it says, v'yikhuli, you should take me. And then it says you should take Torah. It should have said you should take me and Torah. But the answer is kul echad, it's all one. By taking Torah, we are taking me, we're taking Hashem. Hashem and Torah is one.
What page is this? That you're on?
What?
What page?
What page am I on? 724. I think I told you this once. Somebody wrote in the Torah book that he has a question, which is a contradiction. And the contradiction was that in one source it says, Hashem says, I created the Yetzer Hara, but don't worry, I also created a spice that neutralizes the Yetzer Hara. Not salt and pepper. What's the spice? The spice is Torah. So from this we see that you need Torah to overcome the Yetzer Hara. Then there's another source that says, Hashem says, without me, you'd never be able to overcome Yetzer Hara. You need my assistance. So that means we need Hashem's help. So the guy writes, this is a clear contradiction. Here it says, Torah helps you overcome the Yetzer Hara. Here it says, Hashem helps you overcome the Yetzer Hara. And the answer is even better. The answer is, if you are an ordinary person, you surely need Hashem's help to overcome the Yetzer Hara. If you're a Torah scholar, you don't need Hashem's help because you have Torah, so you don't need Hashem's help. But if you say this to anybody who even tasted a little of Chassidus, they wouldn't understand the question in the first place. Torah and Hashem is one, it's the same thing. So if it says Hashem is the one that's going to help you and the Torah is going to help you, it's one. Same here. It says, v'yikhuli, take me to you. And then it says Truma. So through Torah, you take Hashem. So Alter Rebbe said that that's what it means. It should have said, take me and Torah. And the answer is, Torah and Hashem are so much one, it doesn't even make sense to say, take me and Torah. It's basically, take me, Torah, because Torah and me, Hashem, is one. 7:25. And that's what it means in davening. We're also saying that when Hashem gave us the Torah, He gave us Himself. So basically, we come to the conclusion that we were given the Torah, and we deep down inherently already have that oneness with Hashem. Not like Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu had to work on it, and through his avodah, it came to this place where he and Hashem became one. We already have it, but it's hidden, it's concealed. And that's what he says in the next part, in the bottom of page 2, 725. There's really nothing that stands in the way from the soul's unity with Hashem. Only one thing, haratzim. Which means if a person doesn't want to have to be one with Hashem, then that's blocking that unity, the fact that I don't want. But page 726, as soon as a Yid openly says, I want to be one with you, Hashem, and he accepts Hashem's sovereignty and Hashem's oneness, that's basically by saying, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. At that moment, his soul and I one become one with Hashem. Remember, it's already one. But I have to say it openly in order that that oneness should become one. This, the Alter Rebbe says, is Yitzias Mitzrayim. That's going out of Mitzrayim. Naturally, the Guf and the Nefesh Habahamis don't feel that oneness. And therefore, I and Hashem are Chas v'Shalom separate. The fact that I say Shema Yisrael, and I'm accepting Hashem's sovereignty, and I say I want to be one with Hashem, that brings me to a place where I'm basically leaving the confinements of the body, and I can become one with Hashem. And before, there was something blocking. And here the Alter Rebbe explains that's why Yitzias Mitzrayim is incorporated in Shema. Even though it's a mitzvah Pnei Atzma, reading the Shema is one mitzvah, and remembering Mitzrayim every day is another mitzvah. But our sages, when they wrote the Siddur, they chose to put it into the Shema. That this, and we're here, we should mention going out of Mitzrayim. Why did they put it here? So the answer is Neshem Dover Echad Mamish, page 727. Because reciting the Shema and going out of Mitzrayim is one and the same thing. Going out of Mitzrayim means going out of these limitations and this restriction and this barrier that doesn't let me feel Hashem being one. So when I daven and I say the Shema and I feel the love for Hashem and I feel that I and Hashem am one, that is physically I'm not going anywhere. I'm sitting in my chair in davening, but spiritually it means I was able to get away from where I was before, separate from Hashem, and I become one with Hashem, and that's going out of Mitzrayim on a personal level. So this is the main focus in Chassidus, what's supposed to happen Pesach. That's the time that we work on going out of our limitations, our personal Mitzrayim, becoming one with Hashem. And even though you're supposed to do this every day, the Rabbi just said, Chol Yom V'Yom. But it's like everything else. There's one day in the year, or one Yom Tov in the year, that's the beginning. That's when Hashem gives us the spiritual koyach, the strength and the power and the force that we should be able to accomplish it. And with that strength, that enables us for the next 300 and whatever amount of days that are left in the year to, on a personal level and on a daily basis, perform this going out of Mitzrayim on a practical level. So, what is it? How does it manifest? Okay, just accepting in my heart or through action? The answer is also through action. If a person, for example, is able to overcome a certain challenge, until now I couldn't get myself to make a bracha before I eat, and now I'm making a bracha, I just went out of Mitzrayim. This is a manifestation of my becoming one with Hashem. And if a person starts to light Shabbos candles, but what about a person who's already lighting Shabbos candles and he's already making brachas and he's already davening, he's already learning Torah? So how does it manifest? And the answer is there's so much details to Torah and to mitzvahs and things that we need to do that everybody can find something that I haven't done yet. And by adding that, going that extra, moving out of my place and doing something which I didn't do before, that's a manifestation of my personal Mitzrayim. Because if I'm just accepting Hashem in my mind, but really nothing new is happening, in a certain sense, I didn't do anything today more than yesterday. And you should be going out of Mitzrayim every day. What about a person who's already a Beinoni? He davens, he learns, he does mitzvahs, he does everything right. How does he go out of Mitzrayim? Whatever you tell him to do, I'm doing it already. I know we don't have that problem, but we soon will. We're getting there, So the Alter Rebbe explains, and this is also in here, I don't know if we'll do it inside, but there's a whole chapter 15 in Tanya. Where the Alter Rebbe explains, this is called Mitzrayim of Kedusha. There's Mitzrayim of Klipa and Mitzrayim of Kedusha. So Mitzrayim means confinements, limitations, barriers, and basically something that limits me. There could be something limits me in Kedusha and something that limits me in Klippa. And Klippa means anything which I'm not supposed to do. Kedusha would mean, for example, if I'm limited in how much Torah I study, and I can't get myself to spend more time, even though I have the time. If I feel limited in how much I give tzedakah, even though I could give more, but I just can't get myself to give more. If I'm limited in the way how much time I spend helping another person, which I could spend more time and I could help more people, but I limit myself and I can't go beyond that. That's my personal mitzrayim. In fact, Alter Rebbe says even a person who's learning, like he says, repeating his studies 100 times, but if he can't go beyond that, that's his personal mitzrayim. And when he gets himself to the point where he's going to learn 101 times, that he just went out of mitzrayim. So many people ask this question: what does this mean? Hashem wants us to be hurting, I'm learning Torah, I'm davening. No, go a little bit more than, they use the term, go more than your comfort zone. What does Hashem care that I'll be comfortable? Okay, I'm comfortable. It's easy for me to do this mitzvah, do that mitzvah. No, do a little bit more, learn a little bit more, do a little bit more, this mitzvah, do a little bit more. Why do we have to do more? Why wouldn't Hashem just be satisfied that I am doing Torah, doing mitzvahs, and I'm also comfortable? I don't feel that I'm, in English they say, no pain, no gain. You know what that means? It doesn't mean that Chas v'shalom you have to be hurting, but if you have to heal something in your body through exercise or whatever, they'll tell you to do things. Oh, it hurts. No pain, no gain. If it's not going to hurt, that means that you're not strengthening your muscle. Okay, so but Hashem, he's so kind and he's so good. Why does he want me to I have to feel that no, this comes with an effort, and if there's no real effort, it's not real avodah. In fact, the Rebbe gives an example. I'm sure you'll remember this from chapter 15. What about a person that loves learning? He has a passion for learning. He's a bookworm. Lahavdil, if he wouldn't be from, he'd be reading books all day, all books. He has no passion for money. He's just one of these kind of people who has no passion for money. So money is not an obstacle for him and not a challenge for him. He has no passion for women. He has no passion for honor. He has no passion for all the things that passionate people have passions for. And he sits and learns all day Torah. No. You're not really serving Hashem because you're doing everything which is natural for you. So what does Hashem care? So it's natural, but I'm doing all the right things. I'm learning 18 hours a day and 13 minutes. And I love it. So what's wrong? So the thrust of the answer is, it goes back to the original question that you heard in this class more than once. If Hashem wanted this world to be a dwelling place for him, why did he have to make this big commotion? All these things happening over 5,786 years until Mashiach comes. Why couldn't he just create the world, the lowest world in all the worlds, and then immediately transform it into a spiritual world? What's missing? Which ingredient is missing? What? Avodah. The purpose of creation wasn't just that the lowest world should be transformed. There's one word shouldn't get lost in the equation. Hashem wanted the lowest of worlds to be transformed to Kedusha through our avodah. So if Hashem would create the world and immediately turn it into a spiritual world, it would be there, but not our avodah. Now let's take this on a personal level. If I was born with a nature I love studying Torah, and therefore I'm actually studying Torah all day. I love helping people, and therefore I do acts of kindness. Is this my avodah or not? This would be like Hashem creating the world and making everything good. Hashem created the world and made me natural. It's natural for me to learn. It's natural for me to give tzedakah. It's natural for me to help people. It's natural for me to stay away from other things that are inappropriate. So I'm not doing it. It's like Hashem created me this way, and everything is happening in a natural way. How do I know that it's me? There's only one way to know. If there's an effort involved, that means that it's not natural. That means, even if it's a tiny thing, a hairline of a difference, but this took effort for me to do, that's the indication that this is my contribution, not my nature that Hashem created me. So it's not Chas v'shalom that Hashem wants us to be uncomfortable. Hashem wants us to serve Him with our avodah. And our avodah is only when there's an effort involved. There's a famous story with the Frierdiker Rebbe that he said he met a chassid, an older chassid, that still remembers how his grandfather took him on his bar mitzvah to the Tzemach Tzedek to get a bracha. He walked in the Tzemach Tzedek's room, a grandfather, and he told the Rebbe, please give my grandson a bracha. And what was the bracha that he asked for? He said, give him a bracha that he should remember everything that he sees by the Rebbe, everything that he sees amongst Chassidim, everything that he sees in our family, and then he'll naturally be a Yireh Shamayim. He'll automatically be God-fearing. If he'll only remember that, he'll automatically be God-fearing. So the Tzemach Tzedek said to him, it's over 50 years, a Yebel, Jubilee, he used that term, it's a Yebel. Over 50 years that my grandfather and my father-in-law, which is the Mitzvah Rebbe, and myself are working so hard that Chassidim shouldn't be natural Yireh Shamayim, but that the Yireh Shamayim, the fear of God, should come through avodah, through work. And you're asking me for a bracha that it should be a natural Yireh Shamayim. The Chassid said that he still has in his house the yarmulke. The Rebbe put his holy hands on my head, so I have the yarmulke that the Rebbe blessed me. When he put his hands on my head. But the point in the sikh is to bring out this point that the greatest quality is achievements, spiritual achievements that come through avodah, and that's Yetzias Mitzrayim. That Hashem created us with limitations specifically, but the reason why He gave us these limitations is so we can do avodah. If I would be born without any limitations, anything which is Hashem's will, I just naturally want, like an angel, then again, these are not humans, and that's not this world that Hashem wanted. He wanted a world that comes, everything is accomplished through avodah. I remember once I was speaking in a shul, and I was bringing out this point. I think it was actually Pesach, and I said, imagine you have two people. One person that studies Torah 10 hours a day, and the other person that studies Torah 10 minutes a day, and it's possible that these 10 minutes that this person studies is more precious to Hashem than the other person's 10 hours. Because that person is studying 10 hours a day since he's a child, and he's doing it naturally, and he loves it, and he's been doing it for years, and there's no effort involved. And this person's 10 minutes is a struggle, is a war, it's a challenge. He doesn't know if he should or he shouldn't, but he's pushing himself to do it. Could be more precious to Hashem. So the rabbi walks over to me and says, listen, I heard what you said, but I don't really think I agree with you, because the one who's learning 10 minutes a day is going to be an ignoramus. And the one who learns 10 hours a day is going to be a Torah scholar. So the question is, what's the bottom line? Is the bottom line having the title of being a Torah scholar? Well, the bottom line is serving Hashem. Serving Hashem by this person's 10 minutes is more of an act of serving Hashem than this person's 10. There's no doubt what he's saying is true. Learn 10 minutes a day, you can become a Torah scholar. But there's something deeper to Torah study than just becoming a Torah scholar. It's all about making that connection with the Eibishter. We open up another subject. Let's see. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Which one should we choose here? This Kriyas Yamsuf was a big subject, but I think you remember we once learned about it, right? I gave you my sheets and the diagrams. Let's try quickly. The 10 makas, 7. I mean, in the sheet here, it's number 7. But in the book, it's page. I don't know if you'll find much on the books, but let's see. It'll be over here. On the surface, the whole story with Yitzhak Mitzrayim, if you read it on the surface, and probably many people are thinking, wow, Hashem is really creative. He wants to drive these Egyptians crazy. Frogs, he sends the lice. I mean, couldn't think of anything else. Why these strange ways? Water turns into blood, and then he sends frogs, and then he sends lice, and then he sends locusts, then makes it dark. On the surface, it's very hard to understand. It means Hashem wanted to give them a plague, wanted them to suffer, and it shows, basically, theoretically, there are infinite ways that Hashem could have sort of taken revenge on these people or hurt them, punish them. Why these specific strange ways? So even Rashi and Chumash brings down a medrash that says that it wasn't just stam, there's a sequence here. But Rashi says it very briefly, and of course, it's still very general. Rashi says that in war strategy, that one of the first things you do is you try to stop the supply, you try to bring the city under siege. You don't let anything in or out, and you try to stop the water supply. In other words, you're forcing the enemy to surrender. You stop the water supply. So the first thing Hashem did was he plagued the water. He stopped the water supply. Another thing that happens in war strategy is that there's drumming and bugles and the horses are neighing and there's noise, and that's to intimidate the enemy, to frighten them. So Hashem sent the frogs to make a lot of noise. Even with all this explanation, it's like, okay, still very creative. We couldn't think of any other ideas. But one thing you do see from Rashi, this wasn't stam. This is a war. And the war was between Kedusha and Klippa. And therefore, there was a strategy here in a spiritual sense, similar to the strategy in the physical sense. And the way it's explained in Chassidus, which is a way to explain it without going into all the details, because that also needs to be explained. But the general idea is that the 10 makas correspond to the 10 spheres. Everything in the world is made up of 10 attributes, starting from Malchus till Chochmah. And basically, the same as with Mitzrayim. So the first one, just to probably spell out how it is, when Hashem plagued the water, that means Hashem crushed Malchus of Mitzrayim. When Hashem brought the frogs, that was Yesoid of Mitzrayim. When Hashem brought the next plague, that was the next sphere. One after the other, all the 10 spheres. And what is Makas Bechoros? Bechoros means the firstborn. Spiritually, it means that this is not one of the 10, even though it is one of the 10, but it's beyond being one of the 10. It's Chochmah, which in one hand is one of the 10, but on the other hand, it's also the essence of everything. Everything begins with Chochmah. With Makas Bechoros, Hashem crushed the essence of Mitzrayim. One of the ways where we see this is, how long did each makkah take? How long did it last for? What? A week, 7 days. Why 7? Why not 6 days, 5 days, 8 days? Try to guess why 7.
Natural.
Well, what else is new? In Chassidus, we've learned that everything with number 7 is connected to what? The 7 attributes. We put on the tefillin 7 times, we had a chuppah there 7, and Simchas Torah there 7, and Shabbos is the 7th. Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes. So in each one, each sphere that had to be sort of defeated and crushed, there are 7 attributes, so it took 7 days. How long did Makas Bechoros take? What? A whole night? Took a split second. In fact, if you know, Rashi says this also in Chumash, that Moshe Rabbeinu said, Kach hatzois halayla, around midnight it's going to happen. And Rashi says, why do you say around midnight? Why didn't you say exactly midnight? And Rashi says, because Hashem knows the exact, precise second, which is midnight. Midnight means it's between day and night. But the Egyptians, with all their wisdom, still wouldn't know the exact, precise moment. And when it's going to happen, they're going to say, aha, Moshe Rabbeinu was lying. It happened, but not exactly midnight like Moshe Rabbeinu said. So he said kachatzait, but really it meant precisely in the midnight. which means that just like night and day are two different things, night is one aspect and day is a different aspect. And midnight is that point which is not day and not night, which means it's the source or the essence of these two different directions. And now, in context of this discussion, Chatzos is the essence of all the attributes of Mitzrayim. And that's why once that was beaten, that's when the Yidden went out of Mitzrayim. That was the last thing. Yeah.
When you say the essence of Mitzrayim, and you said Chachma, does it also represent Chachma, or is that?
It does represent Chachma, but Chachma itself has it in two aspects. Sometimes it's seen as one of the 10. In addition to that, it also considers the essence of whatever the 10 things we're talking about. Yeah.
What is firstborn specifically the essence?
Because Begashmias, firstborn, means the beginning of everything that follows. The essence of the neshama by us is revealed in the beginning of the year, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. There's a sikh that ever says it's in the beginning of the day when we say Moed Ani. It's in the beginning of a month on the day of Rosh Chodesh. So the beginnings, being that it's the beginning, that's what the essence is the beginning of the whole structure. Okay. To be continued. One more to go. Tomorrow, it's Hashem.